We've got one last person to celebrate here. And I do quite a lot of speaking, but this is my first time presenting an award. So if I do it poorly, let's keep in mind that Katherine, who we're giving this award to, Katherine Alteneder Mills, is extraordinary, and it's an honor to recognize her. Because look, we don't just give this award to anybody. This is an academic institution, and we have a rubric. The Lit Impact Award celebrates leaders who drive meaningful change in access to justice. Katherine was the executive director of the Self-Represented Litigation Network, SRLN, a nationwide network of court staff, judges, legal aid lawyers, technologists, and librarians who are focused on helping self-represented litigants. Now it's known as the Access to Justice Network at Stanford Law School. And through SRLN, Katherine has connected people and shaped the access to justice movement with research, training, collaborations, and a community that still drives access to justice innovation today. So I think we can check the leader and meaningful change boxes. The Lit Impact Award celebrates innovators who pursue the what ifs questions about law. Katherine shared with me a story about a woman in a remote Alaska community who had been trying to get divorced for 13 years. But this was early days for the internet, and she was able to use the computers at school where she worked after she finished her shift. So Katherine's team emailed her a bundle of forms and instructions, and within a few months, she had accomplished what had seemed impossible for 13 years. The what if question, what if someone could solve their legal problems over the internet, was still novel at the time, and we're still working on it today. The Lit Impact Award celebrates collaborators who pursue progress at scale. I got involved with SRLN because that's how I know who Katherine is. That's why I started with that, and I benefited from the community she built. And it's a great example of the scale at which she pursues progress. But before that, she was the founding director of the Alaska Court Systems Family Law Self-Help Center. And there she built the nation's first virtual self-help center in 2001 in order to bring self-help to everyone in Alaska, not just those who could get to the courthouse across the tundra. From Alaska self-help centers to SRLN, Katherine's work has been about increasing access to justice at massive scales, especially for rural and vulnerable populations. And finally, the Lit Impact Award celebrates people who inspire us. If you haven't been inspired by anything I've said yet, please check for a pulse. Much of what we now take for granted in access to justice work exists because people like Katherine built the foundation. So when we look at our rubric, leader, innovator, collaborator, and someone who inspires bold thinking, Katherine doesn't just meet the criteria, she helped define it. Her work has changed not just individual lives, but the way we think about access to justice, what's possible, who it's for, and how we get there. So Katherine, it's an honor to recognize you for that impact. Please join me in congratulating her. Gotta do the graduation walk.
Yeah.
There you go.
Thank you for that very generous introduction, and thank you to the whole Lit Lab group for recognizing the work that I have been able to do with all of you. I asked if I could make some remarks, and I can, so I'm going to make some. So when Sam first reached out to me about this award, I was driving through rural Southwest Georgia, to Dougherty County, to visit their self-help center as part of my current journey across America, chronicling self-help and the self-help movement. On my way back to Atlanta, I realized I was close to planes, so I decided to visit Jimmy Carter's boyhood home. I wanted to see the vistas that had shaped him. The sun was setting, the fallow fields of winter stretched out on either side of the road. When I found the homestead, the grounds were quiet, the park was closed. I pulled over just to turn around. I got out to stretch my legs and breathe in the cool, piney air, and there in the driveway was a peanut shell. It made me laugh, and then unexpectedly, it made me tear up. Someone had stood in that spot, maybe talking, maybe just thinking, eating peanuts, and then gone on with their day. An ordinary human moment, likely similar to many of the days in Carter's life. We tell Jimmy Carter's life as a story of titles: governor, president, Nobel laureate. But what defined his life was something quieter, a steady, unbroken commitment to human dignity, showing up again and again in ordinary places, doing ordinary work that mattered enormously. That's what the peanut shell captured for me. Not legacy as performance, but dignity as practice. And I think that framing really matters, especially for everyone in this room, because the work of access to justice is dignity as practice. When Renee Dancer was the Richard Zorza Fellow at SRLN, she described the SRLN community as one of givers. And she was referring mostly to the generosity of people who shared learning, ideas, support. But if you've ever watched the staff at a self-help center walk someone through a form or a process, you have witnessed dignity in practice. Throughout today, listening to the work being done, we were all witnessing dignity in practice. And you, the technologists building the tools to scale justice, you are the people who also stop and see the whole person, who refuse to be gatekeepers, who ask, how do I open this system so someone can move their life forward to seek justice? I'm not introducing something new, I'm just simply naming it, because underneath all of the systems, the innovations, the scale, the next big idea, there is a much simpler question. Are we being stewards of dignity in ways big and small, in the design of a form someone uses to put their story before the court, in whether a person feels seen or dismissed in a moment that matters to them deeply, and whether we bring impacted communities into the conversation, and whether we remember that people are whole people, not just their legal problem. And I want to be clear that when I say stewards of dignity, I am not talking about a program, a policy, a sector-wide initiative. I'm talking about you, each of you individually in whatever role you hold, because one of the biggest shifts we're living through right now with AI is that information is no longer scarce, but thoughtful design, governance, and deployment of the tools that carry that information is scarce. How this work is done will determine whether equal protection, due process, and dignity actually survive. That is not just a system level question. It is a series of individual questions every day by people like you. And I want to say this plainly, we know these are not easy times. There's a lot that feels uncertain and fragile and dangerous. So what matters most is not just what we build, but who we are when we build it. Because that is the bridge over troubled waters, not any single tool, not any single reform, but people like you who choose again and again to carry dignity forward. So I offer you this phrase, steward of dignity, as a companion in your work, a way to ground yourself, a way to check in, a quiet question you can carry in this moment, in any moment. In this moment, am I protecting dignity or eroding it? And if I've eroded it, how do I restore it? There is strength in knowing who you are in the work. You are people who see others, who open systems, who make it possible for someone to move forward and seek justice. So wherever you go, and so for the law students in here who might leave the access to justice space, wherever you go, whatever you build, carry that with you. In the way you design, in the way you decide, in the way you treat clients and colleagues, and in the way you care for your own self, because that's where dignity lives. It has been one of the greatest joys of my professional life to learn, collaborate, and contribute within this extraordinary community. Thank you. Back in its safe box. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Work we can be proud of. Enjoy the drinks, enjoy the conversation, enjoy the company. Thank you for coming.